Hey everybody, it's Brad with Brad's Designs, making a hopefully quick video going over some pretty big updates on the underseat tackle box trays. A lot of people have given some great feedback, been working on a better solution for how to support the back of the trays. Using the yardstick or whatever was never the best solution, but it worked for the time being. But I think I've come up with a pretty cool way to make this work. Um, these changes will apply to all the Old Town kayaks. Now, granted, part of this won't necessarily apply to the autopilot since the tackle box trays basically rest on the battery box. And they sit up so high that I don't think this will really apply for that model. But for the PDL models, the Sportsman models, this is going to be a new option. Well, not really even an option. It's just going to be an update, and there's going to be some changes to the website as well to make ordering a little more clear, a little easier for everybody. Also had a couple quick announcements. Number one, keep an eye out, watch our Facebook page, and make sure you're signed up for our emails. There will be a sale very, very soon. These new products, there'll be a bunch of new products that I've just been dragging my feet getting updated and on the website, but trying to get as many as I can up before this sale occurs. So with that, also as part of the sale, this is one of those times during the year when I'm gone fishing, and with that, since there will be a potential delay in shipping for some items, we do typically do a pretty good sale, so keep an eye out. That'll be coming up really, really soon. One other just kind of note to point on, somebody had reached out, they had some damage because they found they needed to remove these trays often when they were transporting their kayak because they would take their seat out. By all means, if that's what you think you need to do, hopefully with this new system and the way it's suspended in here and it's all attached to the seat, obviously you'd have to take your tackle box tray out, but hopefully you don't have to remove these trays. With that said, if you do ever need to remove these trays, hopefully you can kind of see it here at the back. Obviously when you put them on and take them off, there's a side that has more flex than the reinforced side. So what I always do is put that side on first and then roll it on. And when you go to take it off, just kind of roll it off, starting with the side that flexes, and it should come off pretty easy. That said, these are plastic. There is potential for wear. If you ever run into any issues, something breaks, just reach out. We'll figure something out. We're always working. We want people to use the products, and stuff breaks, and that's unfortunate. We'll find an easy solution. More often than not, typically I just ask for help with shipping and maybe a little bit for materials, just depending on what it is, and we'll get you set up and back out on the water. So, with all that said, we now have back plates that I'm pretty happy with to support the rear of these tackle box trays. I'm just going to spin this around. I've got this kind of rigged up on this little test jig, kind of mimicking the front and the back of a kayak seat. Now, granted, typically, especially on a PDL that I'm familiar with, the rear crossbar sits quite a bit higher than the front crossbar. And then there's also that, the top crossbar that's above here that the actual seat is going across up above. So, but this is just kind of a general glimpse at kind of how this works. So what we're going to have is we have back plates. We're going to have both wood and the 3D printed plastic back plates. We will have them set up. As you can see here, it's got engravings. So this one will accommodate 3600s, going vertically like this, a 3600 horizontally, 3700s going, sticking out. Now, granted, a 3700, some people have ordered it and they still love it, but a 3700 is going to stick out a little bit beyond your seat. It's going to be under your legs. I'm still working on a way to potentially make longer trays. That's a topic for another video, because the challenge is when you widen them out to hold two 3700s side by side, you run into an issue, and I'll have some photos in the listing, where sometimes you need this back edge to sit in between the two gunnels in the cockpit, basically. And if you spread it out too wide, they can't do that. Anyway, moving on from that, Again, the 3D printed one will also have that. We will also have a wider one. So this will be one of the ordering options. I think a lot of people have ordered these because they just want to hold one 3700 box sideways under here. So we'll have that option both in wood and in plastic. Again, just if you want to have just one 3700, sitting kind of like that. I just don't have one printed up for the larger one right now. With that said, the reason we're offering them in the wood, this is obviously laser cut out of a hardwood. Some people had some concerns about it, so we do have the printed option. The challenge is the wood option. It's very cost effective for us to make, and we can save, try to keep the prices down and the cost down, because I know even though we're all out there in expensive kayaks, a lot of people have saved their money for quite a while just to be able to afford that kayak. That said, there will be a slight price increase if you want to go with the 3D printed option. Not drastic, but obviously it does take some time to make those and some material. And so there is a little bit of an added cost. So real quick, I'll kind of show, how this works. And then we can, then I'll show you kind of a couple of the installs, just so it's pretty straightforward though. I mean, basically each set, so this is one set of trays, will come with the back plate, 4 screws, machine screws, and 4 nuts, and a length of this single-sided Velcro strap. Pretty cool stuff. It just doubles right over on itself. And the way this works, and what I'm going to do is spin this back around sideways here, and I've kind of got it set up on these wood blocks just to kind of mimic, even if you had no seat risers, usually the back bar is a little bit above the bottom front crossbar on the seat. However, if you've got any sort of risers at all, so I've kind of set this up. So hopefully we can see that. I'm going to move you a little bit back here. So you can see that, there's a pretty good difference between the rear crossbar and then basically the seat's going to be almost flat. And so what you want, and where this really shines, is this allows you to adjust the tilt of these trays. And all you need to do is just raise and lower this till you get it where you want it, to where the tackle boxes slide easily between, the lower and the upper crossbar. And that's really going to make it easy. This Velcro holds really well. I guess it's not technically Velcro. If you have any concerns, once you know how you want it set up, you could run some electrical tape around it, maybe even put a couple, staples through it. I haven't had any issues, and I've been using this for several weeks now. I don't take my seat out. Kayak goes in the back of my pickup truck, and I haven't had any issues with it moving at all. That said, if you want a little more reassurance, do a couple wraps of tape or something just to keep that from separating. But I mean, this holds pretty good. With that said, it's pretty straightforward. Like I said, you'll get the hardware to attach it to the rear of the trays. I've got one set up here. I only have one screw in it right now, but as you can see, you've got plenty of adjustment. You can pick whatever holes you think you need. So again, what I would suggest is set up the front, set up the trays, kind of get them spaced out where you think you need them. Then you can put the back plates on. A little bit of trial and error, but everybody's got different boxes, different things like that. On the back of the plates, there's these 2 slots. Might be easier to see with the wood one. So the 2 slots right here, and basically all you do is you run this strap through one, back out the other one, double it over, just push it together, and it holds perfectly fine. Then from there, like I said, just make sure you get the right angle where you can easily remove the tackle box, and then just run this around the rear crossbar, cinch it in place. Pretty straightforward, pretty easy. Right now, currently, depending on which option, if you choose the wood or the plastic, it will come with slightly different hardware. The plastic ones will come just with a number 10, standard nut and a machine screw. And what's nice is, you tighten that down nice and snug, and the plastic kind of acts as a little bit of a, not a buffer, but it'll help hold that screw so it doesn't back off. The wood version comes with a little bit longer machine screw and then a locking nut, just because I don't have, it's very hard to make the same type slots in this wood to be able to use a regular nut. Not a big deal, just a little bit more of a hassle when installing, because you're going to have a pair of pliers. But I mean, overall, pretty happy with the way this is working. We no longer have that long bar or whatever. We don't have the clips on the back that potentially could break. This is a much more solid setup. Like I said, we're trying to keep the prices, at least for the wood option, the same as they currently are. There will be an increase, for the printed back, just because of the time and materials it takes to create that. If you are a previous customer that has purchased these in the past, we're trying to come up with a good way to do some sort of, upgrade program, or some way that we can get everybody up to speed, because obviously we're always trying to change and make things better, and we don't want to leave people in the past. So I've been sending out some of these wooden ones here recently, just to get people's feedback and see how it works. Everybody's been pretty positive. Like I said, some people had some concerns about how the wood would hold up. Like I said, I've been using it, but it depends. It's under the seat. It just depends, I guess, on how much water you're getting under the seat. If you think that it's going to be an issue, you could always paint the wood or seal it. But, again, there's going to be a slight increase to go with the plastic, but not monumental. So hopefully we can accommodate everybody. And as I mentioned, with the sale coming up, that will definitely help make that more affordable. Again, if you've purchased these in the past and you want to look at the upgrade options, if I don't have something listed or an announcement made, feel free to reach out. Shoot me an email, find me on the Facebook, Messenger or whatever, and we'll figure something out and try to get everybody set up, because again, without all the feedback and the great support from everybody, we wouldn't really be moving forward. The old way worked for me, but I can see where that wasn't necessarily the perfect option. I think this is a lot cleaner, and it's going to be a lot better for everybody. Again, as I mentioned previously, this is kind of set up to mimic a PDL. The Sportsman's going to be pretty much the same. It's just different size crossbars, but other than that, it's going to be the same principle. You'll hang it from the rear crossbar. And then again, the Minn Kota, the Minn Kota, still trying to work on a solution for that, but right now it's basically you have to have 4-inch front risers, and that's a little high for a lot of people. But for the autopilot, basically this is just gonna rest on the back of your battery, or the back is gonna rest on top of the battery. You don't really need to support it. Now, if you have removed that battery for any reason, maybe you've moved it to some other place, whatever, reach out to us. We can definitely figure out if this will work. I just haven't had that situation come up, so I don't know how likely that would be. So, if you have a unique situation, any questions, as always, feel free, reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions. And like I said, we will have this up for sale very, very soon, as well as an announcement on our Summer Gone fishing sale. Thanks.